So, welcome, parents. This is Michael Gleed, and we are here talking today with Dr. Kathleen Carson out of Agora Hills. And the whole goal of today really is to help connect the dots with what your child might be going through to a possible connection with an airway problem. And so, Dr. Carson, man, first, thank you for joining us on Aloha Friday.
My pleasure, Michael.
So Dr. Carson, why are you here? Why are you talking to me today?
Well, I am a parent, and my oldest is 19, hard to believe. But when she was born, she was diagnosed with failure to thrive. She was underweight. She never slept. She had a hard time eating. Breastfeeding took hours at a time. And the kid just never, ever, ever slept. And nobody knew what was wrong with her. She had a problem holding her O2 sats. She grew into a cute little toddler who always had her mouth open. She had some dark circles under her eyes, maybe a little crease across her nose. Just super cute, always just mouth open. Couldn't eat things very well. She lived on Pediasure. She got sick all the time. She had asthma, was on an albuterol inhaler. We went through every test under the sun, and doctors just, all they could give us was failure to thrive. And when she was about 4, somebody asked me, an orthodontist asked me actually, if anybody had looked at her airway. And I was already practicing dentistry, and I looked at teeth all the time, but at the time, which was, 15 years ago now, I wasn't looking at airway yet, and not many of us were. And I said no. I took a better look, and her airway was the size of a cocktail straw. The kid could not breathe, and because she couldn't breathe, she couldn't sleep. So she wasn't getting growth hormone released. She wasn't having her body repair itself. She wasn't able to fight off all the germs out there. And this was ultimately, to make a long story short, the underlying cause of all of the issues that we had with her. And once we were able to identify that and fix this and get her development headed in the right direction, get her breathing better and therefore sleeping better, it was like a whole new kid was born. The asthma went away. She ate. She hardly ever got sick. She started catching back up on the growth curve. She was always so small. Now she's average in height. Academically doing great. That kid can definitely sleep now. And it just opened a whole new way for me to look at dentistry and what we can do to help change people's lives. I had no clue. They didn't teach this in dental school. They probably still don't. But the difference that made for me as a mom and how it changed my life, both personally and professionally, and definitely changed her life, it turned into just a passion for me. So I've spent the last 15 years learning as much as I can from whomever I can, and trying to help my patients, both adults and preventing it in their kids. And it's just a wonderful thing. And now that more people are talking about it, hopefully the word starts spreading even more.
I love it. So you bring up an interesting point, because today I wanted to talk about 3 things. I wanted to talk about, the system, the symptoms associated with, an airway issue, the underlying cause, and then the possible root cause. So you mentioned you're a dentist, and I want to just kind of bring up this first little part right here, which are the visible symptoms that are related to a possible connection with airway. So why am I speaking with a dentist today?
Well, we're going to be the ones that can actually identify if there is a growth and development problem with your kids. So maybe ADHD or bedwetting or, nightmares. You might not think that I would be somebody to talk to, but a lot of times those are signs that their sleep is disrupted. And a lot of times sleep can be disrupted because they're not breathing properly at night. So we can identify that much quicker than most other medical professionals. And if we start seeing crooked and crowded teeth, that's because there's not enough room for those teeth to come in to the bony arches. There should always be enough room. And if there's not, it's because something's not developing properly. Things like swollen tonsils can be a sign of allergies, but it can also be a sign of mouth breathing. And your body wasn't built to breathe through the mouth. That's the emergency access hole only. Should always be breathing through your nose. So we're just in a very, very good position professionally to help people identify if any of these symptoms are being caused by a developmental problem with their facial structures.
I love it. So a quick question. I was just curious about this. Mouth breathing and crooked teeth. Is there a correlation there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I said, we're meant to breathe through our nose. If you are breathing through your mouth and you're open all the time, your tongue is supposed to act as a scaffolding for the development of your upper arch. And it's when your mouth is closed, your tongue should be up against there, putting pressure and allowing your bone to develop that way. If you're breathing through your mouth and it's open, you're not getting that support. So your arches develop more narrow and there's not as enough room for your teeth to grow in. And so that's one sign that maybe, things aren't heading the way they should be heading.
Interesting. And so I see other things on there: snoring, nightmares, sleep issues. So these are the visible symptoms. These are the things we see and experience every day. So the underlying cause now being something of sorts of a compromised airway. What's really happening? Kind of tie those together, if you would.
Okay, so let's say structurally, like we talked about, everything's developing a little bit more narrowly up in this mid-face area. The roof of your mouth is actually also the floor of your sinuses. So not only is it your mouth that's more narrow and smaller than it should be, but it's also the nasal passages inside your nose. So you're not able to breathe as easily. And then if you can't breathe as easily through your nose and you open your mouth and then you're getting unfiltered air and it's swelling up your tonsils and irritating your tissues, so you're actually able to get even less air in, it will be a cycle that is hard to break. So the mid-face not developing properly up there not only affects the nose like we just talked about, but it also will affect how everything develops in the back of the head. So if you're small up here, and then the lower jaw can't also come down and forward like it's supposed to. So it also sits back and sometimes up. And that shrinks all of the available real estate back here that your airway is supposed to have. You've got your hard spine here. You've got your bony structures here, if they're supposed to be here, and instead they're way back here. It just makes something has to give. And what gives is that space that you have to breathe back there. So the compromised airway might be the underlying cause of all of these things that we're seeing.
Got it. So, I mean, what about like bedwetting in particular, or even ADD, ADHD?
Okay, so that's a
that work?
Question. And I dealt with bedwetting with my kid. So when you're asleep at night, if you're breathing comfortably like you're supposed to be, and you're able to go through all the different sleep cycle stages that your body is designed to go through, you have certain hormones that are released and certain bodily functions that shut down, like you don't have to go to the restroom as much. Your body's designed for you to be able to sleep through the night if you're getting through those proper sleep cycles. However, if you're not breathing properly and your body's constantly in this fight or flight mode because it's trying to survive when you're sleeping, that will disrupt those sleep cycles and you won't have those growth hormones released. You won't have the proper development and changes. So your body never fully gets to that point where it says, okay, we're going to shut down the urine production so that you can sleep through the night. And instead, with kids, we see them wetting the bed at night.
Oh, that's interesting. What about ADD, ADHD?
Okay, so ADD, ADHD, that's the hyperactive kid, right? So, but what do we treat it with? We treat it with stimulants, Ritalin, and those are stimulants that help those kids calm down. So, I mean, you got to start asking yourself, how is it that we're taking this hyperactive kid, giving them essentially, speed, and now all of a sudden they're calm? And the reason that we think that's the case is they're so sleep deprived and their system is so deprived of the rest and repair that it needs, that in order for them to actually stay awake and function, they have to amp up that energy. And again, their system's constantly in this fight or flight mode, and it's extra energy, extra energy, extra energy. So if you just get the kids sleeping properly and breathing properly at night, that goes away. They can be calmer, they can be more relaxed, and they can function during the day. I think one of the studies that came out recently was almost half the kids that are diagnosed with ADD and ADHD are actually, it's an airway issue. And can be treated by just helping them sleep and breathe better. No medications.
So really just treating the root cause instead of just the symptoms.
Exactly.
Got it. So we've gone over the visible symptoms. We've gone over the underlying cause. I just briefly want to talk about the actual root cause and understanding that, the parents that are seeing this right now, we're going to invite them to a parent education meeting so they get more, get educated a little bit more. So kind of briefly talk about just the root cause. How did we get this way?
That's a really good question. I mean, we can go into a ton of details because there's been a lot of actual like anthropological studies with this, but the short answer is going to be that our lifestyles have changed. And they've changed in such a way that our body wasn't necessarily designed to function the best under. We have a lot of pollution. We have terrible nutrition, terrible diets, so much sugar, so many empty carbs. We have allergies, a lot of allergies out there that didn't exist before.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in a stressful society. All of these things add up to not allowing us to develop like we were designed to develop. So for instance, let's say you're not breastfeeding your kid, which no judgment here, everybody has the way to raise their kids, but that in itself can start the development of the face in the wrong direction because we were designed physiologically to breastfeed, and there are certain growth patterns that happen as a result of that. So when you take that away, that can be the start of having weaker muscles, improper tongue position, where when we bottle feed or eat soft foods, our tongue functions in a different way, and it's not the way that is conducive to proper development. And then we continue with soft diets, with processed foods, with the sugars, not the hard stuff that we used to eat. So if we're chewing, in fact, there's a great, I don't know what you would call it, but baby-led weaning is a fantastic way to have your kids learn how to eat the proper way. And what that means is it's not the baby foods that come in the jars. You want to give them real food, something that they can chew on and work their muscles with. That's what we were designed to do. Otherwise, our muscles in our cheeks, our face, our tongue, everything doesn't have to be used like it should be, and it ends up being weaker, which also can cause an underdevelopment in your jaw. So when all of this combines together, then we end up with that compromised airway.
Got it. So I sure appreciate you taking some time out of your day today. So just kind of to wrap it up. So really, from the beginning, we perhaps didn't grow and develop the way that the way we were meant to, right?
Right.
And that turns into an underlying cause being something like airway that gives us the visible symbols that we're seeing today: bedwetting, ADHD, crooked teeth, mouth breathing, snoring, all these different things that we see on this tree. Am I on the right path here?
You are. But one thing I definitely want to point out, Michael, is now that we are aware of this, because for so long most people weren't aware of it. And now that we do know that these things are causing a compromised airway, it's not too late. Our kids grow and develop for many, many years. It's not just the first couple of years of their life. So I know for me, I felt terribly guilty that it took me, 5 years to figure out what was going on with my daughter. I could have done things so much differently, but I think it's important to recognize that at whatever age your kid is at, you can make a difference today. We have ways to help their growth and development catch up, if you will, so that we can fix the issues that have developed. So I do want to say to the other parents out there, because I know it was the case for me, don't feel bad about what you don't know when the professionals don't even know it. And it's never too late to start. Even the teenagers, the adults, we now have the tools and technology to be able to basically tap into our genetics and get that growth and development that's going to fix the compromised airway issue. So it's pretty amazing what we can do.
I love how you put that, because we only know what we know. And that's what this is really all about. This is about raising the awareness, connecting the dots. And if something is going on with your child, to really get them checked out as soon as possible. So Dr. Carson, I sure appreciate you taking some time out on Friday to visit with me. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Michael. You too. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye. Parents, for more information on how we can help your children, please click the button below and fill out a free health questionnaire for your child today. We can help.